Dear audience, have any of you ever experienced cohabiting with a corpse for 10 years? The protagonist of this story has had such an experience. I don't know when it started, but the standards for relationships have dropped from not breaking up to not breaking apart from a corpse. The story begins with a couple having a dispute about breaking up. The girl insisted on breaking up, but the boy refused. No matter what, he just wouldn't agree. He even said, "Unless I die, I won't agree to break up." Upon hearing this, the girl suddenly had an evil idea. That night, she really did kill her boyfriend. But that's not the most shocking part. The most shocking part is the series of actions the girl took afterward. She first hid her boyfriend's body under the bed. A few days later, the body started to smell. To cover up the strong odor emanating from the corpse, she dismembered her boyfriend's body into 3 parts and hid them in 3 large wooden boxes, which she placed in the attic of her house. Even more shocking, a month later, she got married, and 10 months later, she had a child. But all this happened in her bedroom, the same room where the body of her ex-boyfriend was hidden. This means that except for her family had no idea that they were living with a corpse for over 10 years. I feel like vomiting just thinking about it. This is the second-ranked case among China's top 10 unsolved mysteries, known as the Cixi bone case. It's bedtime. Banana Cat is here again to tell everyone about the case. On March 7, 2006, in Huashan Street, Tongjia Village, Cixi City, Ningbo City, Zhejiang Province, on a clear morning, the elderly couple Su decided to clean up their old house to rent it out. They started cleaning from top to bottom. Then they noticed the attic of the 3rd floor, their daughter's bedroom. Upon climbing up, they immediately saw 3 large wooden boxes arranged in a row. They opened the first box and saw a pair of long bones, resembling human thigh bones. Then they opened the second box and saw 2 symmetrical rows of bones, resembling human chest bones. At this point, the elderly couple began to feel afraid. Then, with great fear, they opened the 3rd box, containing a human skull, as well as a pair of radius and pubic bones. At that moment, they were certain that the 3 boxes contained the dismembered parts of a person. The elderly couple was almost scared to death, their few remaining hairs standing on end. They immediately called the police. Shortly afterward, the police arrived at the scene. After a preliminary autopsy by the forensic examiner, it was confirmed that the 3 boxes contained human bones. Next to the bones, they found a business card belonging to a man named Hu Jianming. As for this Hu Jianming, neighbors and acquaintances still recognized him. He was the former boyfriend of Su Dan, the daughter of the Su family. 10 years ago, he left home without warning, supposedly to do business, and hadn't returned to Ningbo in these 10 years. On the day of the discovery, to verify their suspicions, the police extracted DNA from Hu Jianming's parents. After comparison, it was confirmed that the deceased was indeed Hu Jianming. Hu Jianming's death was closely related to the Su family. Subsequently, the police immediately launched an investigation into the people Hu Jianming had contact with before his disappearance. From Hu Jianming's parents, the police learned that 10 years ago, on December 18, 1996, Hu Jianming went to attend a relative's wedding. During the wedding, several of Hu Jianming's classmates told him, "We saw your girlfriend, Su Dan, taking wedding photos with someone else." Hu Jianming was furious upon hearing this. Without waiting for the wedding to end, he rode his motorcycle to find Su Dan. This experience was learned by Hu Jianming's parents the day after the wedding from several of his classmates. They then went to find Su Dan. Su Dan admitted that Hu Jianming had come to see her at the time, but she kept emphasizing that they had an argument when they met, and Hu angrily left, and she didn't know where he went. On the 3rd day, Hu's family searched the streets looking for Hu Jianming. Not far from Su Dan's house, they found Hu Jianming's motorcycle. They went to find Su Dan a second time. Su Dan's answer was still, "I don't know." However, less than half an hour after Hu's family left Su Dan's house, Su Dan called them voluntarily. She said Hu Jianming had contacted her and borrowed 6,000 yuan from her, saying he was going out of town to do business. They agreed to meet at the Industrial and Commercial Bank in the city center. Hu's family rushed to the bank, but Sudan told them they missed Hu Jianming. He had already left. At that moment, Hu's family's first reaction was to chase after him. They split up into 3 groups. One went to the train station, one to the bus station, and one to the pier. But in the end, they couldn't intercept Hu Jianming. From then on, Hu Jianming disappeared. This disappearance lasted for 10 years. In the following 10 years, Hu's family never gave up searching for Hu Jianming. But whenever they began to suspect whether Hu Jianming was still alive, Sudan always conveniently brought news of Hu Jianming, implying something like, "I dare not come back now, but I'll naturally return when I've made money. Don't worry." Based on the above, the police concluded that Sudan had significant criminal suspicion. There were 2 reasons for this. First, she had the opportunity and space to commit the crime, and second, all the information about Hu Jianming came indirectly from her, and Hu Jianming had actually died 10 years ago. How did he communicate with Sudan? Without a doubt, Sudan had significant criminal suspicion. On the day when the police were preparing to summon Sudan, a dramatic scene unfolded. She voluntarily came to the police station to confess. Here is the account of the crime she confessed.
Jianming and I genuinely loved each other, but unfortunately, his family's economic condition was too poor. My parents didn't agree, and my current husband was also introduced by my parents. Our families matched well. I secretly contacted Jianming behind everyone's back, but he found out. On the day of the incident, Jianming came to my house. I took the opportunity to suggest breaking up, but he refused. No matter what, he wouldn't agree, and even threatened me with death. When I heard death, I had an idea at that moment. I used sleeping pills to sedate him, and then immediately strangled him with a telephone cord. I didn't know how to handle his body at the time, so I hid it under the bed. But after 4 days, the body started to smell, and I was afraid my family would notice. After thinking it over, I decided to dismember the body. I bought a bone saw and divided the body into 3 parts, which I then moved to the attic and hid in 3 large boxes. For the first 4 years, I often went to the attic to chat with him, but in the 5th year, my husband and I moved out with our child. We didn't have time to deal with the body, so it remained in the attic. And that's how it stayed for 10 years until my father found it while cleaning.
On June 6, 2006, the Intermediate People's Court of Ningbo City held a trial for this case. To everyone's surprise, Sudan recanted her previous statement in court. She only admitted to dismembering Hu Jianming and denied her romantic relationship with him and the details of drugging him and strangling him with a telephone cord. This meant she wasn't intentionally killing him, so she wasn't liable for the death penalty. Afterward, the police conducted another autopsy on Hu Jianming's remains, but due to the long interval, the results could only confirm that he died from external force and was dismembered after death, but there was no evidence to prove that Sudan had strangled him with a telephone cord. A month later, on July 6, 2016, the Intermediate People's Court of Ningbo City held another trial for this case. Although Sudan was sentenced to death, it was suspended for 2 years. According to unreliable information, in 2009, her death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment, and in 2011, her sentence was reduced to 18 years and 3 months. In 2013, her sentence was further reduced by 2 years and 4 months, and in 2015, it was reduced by 1 year and 8 months. She's about to be released soon. Are you looking forward to it, dear audience? Now, a question arises. It's widely known that the smell emitted by a decomposing body is extremely penetrating. During these 10 years, didn't Sudan's family and neighbors notice? About this matter, we must mention the river behind Sudan's house. Before the incident, this river had not been renovated. It was more like a smelly drain, and there were often dead poultry or feces in it. The smell they emitted happened to cover up the smell of the body, inadvertently helping Sudan, but it's okay. Her family still exposed the whole thing. All I can advise is never to do bad things. So, this case concludes here. Thank you for watching, dear audience. Remember to subscribe.